Hey everybody, welcome back to Black Lotus, where we talk about all things strange and unusual. And today we're going to be talking with our field biologist, Wild Trees, and we're going to be talking about cryptids with him. Looking forward to that. The first thing I want to do, though, is I want to make an announcement, and that is that we are now... on Sundays we've kind of become a UFO channel, and I was thinking about this, and I thought, we are about all things strange and unusual. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to keep the Sunday show going, and that'll be reserved for guests, and we won't just talk about UFOs, but that's mainly what we do on Sundays. But then we're going to start a new show. So we're going to be on Sundays and Thursdays every week. And every Thursday, we're going to be talking about whatever happens to be on our minds concerning the paranormal, everything under the paranormal umbrella. So that being said, did you guys happen to see the latest footage of the Loch Ness Monster?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I mean,
I think I might have. Can I describe it and tell me if it's the same footage?
Sure.
Okay, what I saw was a body near the shore. It was the photo was taken above the loch, and it was looking down at the water by the shore. And there was a body that looked like a plesiosaur, basically, and it was fuzzy, of course. But is that the one you're referring to, or is there a different?
No, and in fact, the guy who took that photo claimed that he hoaxed it.
I did read that. Yeah.
Okay. But no, the one I'm talking about is it's coming. The footage is coming from like a cam that's off the shore. It's really rather it's on the shore, but it's set back, and you can see what looks to be like a wake going through, and then it raises its head about 2 feet off the water. But my question is, why can't we get any decent close-up footage of this thing? I mean, if it's really truly a cryptid, why can't we get any decent? We have better footage of Sasquatch than we do of this thing. I don't get it.
Well, it's in the water. It makes it a little difficult, I'm sure.
But if it raises its head above the water, why can't we get a close-up shot of it? I just don't. I don't.
Isn't that lake like really huge?
Oh yeah.
Kind of like trying to take a picture of the middle of the ocean from the shore.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but it's probably the color of the water too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Andy says that there's hardly any fish in Loch Ness for something that big to survive.
But it's not,
I don't know about
he
that.
doesn't necessarily have to stay in there, though. If he's been that elusive and there's got to be more than one. They'd have to have an exit.
Well, and there are caves under the loch too, where it could be
exactly, that they could go in and out of. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there's got to be more than one.
Oh,
yeah. If there's one, there's more.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to comment first on the difficulty of getting good photographs of cryptids, specifically the Loch Ness Monster. I will say first, there is actually a lot of data-rich videos, which I think are real, of Bigfoot, actually. It's not just the Patterson-Gimlin film. That is the best one, I'll be honest. But there's a guy on YouTube named Thinker Thunker. And so he analyzes all these obscure videos, but he gets deep into video editing and anatomy, and he makes really convincing cases that they're real videos and that they're of a different animal other than humans. He tries to show, if it is a hoax, he'll tell you it's a hoax. But a lot of times it does not add up to be a hoax. So Bigfoot does have footage, but to answer that question, I want to talk about wildlife photography as a whole. Okay, I like wildlife photography, but it is one of the hardest types of photography to do without any training. The easiest type of photography is probably a mirror selfie. That's the easiest type, of wildlife photography is probably the most difficult because First of all, wildlife doesn't like to get close to you. So it's going to be at a distance far away. You're going to need a very high resolution camera or a long lens in focus as well. It can't be out of focus. And then the animal, that's when it shows up, any wildlife, the encounter is going to be so short. It's going to be seconds long. You may notice the animal, and by the time you even think about reaching for your camera, the event is over, because the animal encounters are just fast. Now, the people that are successful at wildlife photography, they dedicate their lives to it, and it takes them weeks or months to get the photograph they want. So right now, I don't think a lot of people are doing that. They're not camping out and waiting for the perfect shot. The shots we get are people that like had no idea they were going to see something amazing or were surprised to see it. So those are just some reasons why I think it's hard. Now, technology can solve all those problems. For example, we now have 360 cams. So if you wanted to, you could buy this small camera, put it on top of your head, and it records everything around you. And you could just leave it on all day, 24/7. And if anything paranormal ever happens, you'll have it in frame. You'll have it in high definition. You could even put on virtual reality goggles and like look around the scene with that type of camera. So technology can help us get better photos, but technology is just now getting there. So I think that's why there hasn't been that many high quality photographs.
Well, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I don't understand these people who capture an image of something, whether it's Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster or whatever, and then they pan away from it. I mean, I don't get, or they'll just stop the footage. I don't get it. I mean, if it were me and I caught this thing on video, my batteries would run dry before I stopped recording, and I certainly wouldn't pan away to look at the scenery. I mean, I would be stuck on that being,
Right.
I don't understand why people do that.
I'm going to give you
they are hoaxing.
I'm going to give you two reactions. I'm going to give you the goof on reaction and the wild trees reaction. So thinking like goof on, I'd probably be like, you're right. They're all hoaxers. And they probably are all hoaxers. That's probably the most logical thing. But if I had to play devil's advocate, if I had to find some positive in the negative, I would say that it's you get very nervous. If we think back to our paranormal encounters, a lot of them are unpleasant, and we're very nervous when they happen. We're not like thinking straight. Our hands are not steady. Now, I know this to be true because like I've said a few times, because I have a history of heavy paranormal events, I do think I will have another one in the future. I know it's going to happen. So I've been trying to be vigilant 24/7 for when it happens. I have to be vigilant. If not, I won't. I want to do experiments. I want to like get deeper into it. Like if I see a shadow person, I want to like shake its hand, whatever. But I have to be vigilant. And I think a lot of people are not vigilant and they're nervous, and that's why they pan away. That's the wild trees answer, goof on answer. They're all hoaxers.
I don't think they're all hoaxes. I don't know about the rest of you, but we haven't seen a Bigfoot or any cryptid for that matter. But that doesn't mean I think that they're all the shots are hoaxes. I just think, because I do believe this, like for instance, I believe this Sasquatch exists. It exists because it makes sense that it would exist. And the other thing too is that I didn't necessarily used to believe that it exists. However, I had a friend of mine in Washington State who was an avid hunter. And this was a no-nonsense guy. He would never claim that he saw Bigfoot unless he did, and he did. He said he was up in his tree stand hunting elk, and he saw this thing come out of the thicket into the clearing. And I totally believe him because he, like I said, he's not the type to make up a story like that.
And he would know what a bear looked like.
Yeah, he would absolutely know what a bear looks like. I mean, and so I guess what it did is it came out of the thicket and it looked directly at him in his tree stand and then turned around and went back into the thicket. No noise, no nothing, But he did tell me that all the wildlife, the birds and all that, got very quiet when this happened. And so it's like they smelled it and ran away. But yeah.
Wow.
There's been a rise in Bigfoot sightings recently too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know what's causing that, but
Where's it coming from? All over, or just in one?
no, all
area?
over.
All over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mainly in the Northwest, though, because that's where you mainly have these sightings. One just happened at Mount Shasta,
Mhm.
and by this woman. But yeah, I totally believe in Sasquatch. Now, as far as lake monsters, I don't know. I'm kind of on the hedge about it, But that's why I believe that Sasquatch exists, even though I've never seen one.
Right.
Wild, I'm interested in your take on that and why you believe, as a biologist, that these things exist.
Are you talking about Bigfoot specifically?
Well, specifically, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Bigfoot specifically, it's very interesting because I guess since I started doing Black Lotus Live, it was a year ago this month. I started
Has it
thinking,
been a year already?
yeah, it was November of 2020. Yeah.
Wow.
So, after that, we started the show. We had a lot of guests on that were Bigfoot centric or wanted to talk about Bigfoot. So I started thinking more about Bigfoot and learning more about him, firsthand. And so now that it's been a year, I'm convinced that there is one type of Bigfoot that is a primate that lives in the woods all over the world, wherever there's woods. I think there are different types of Bigfoot creatures. There's probably some extraterrestrials or quote unquote aliens that they're very intelligent and they have technology, but they just look kind of like, Sasquatch or like Chewbacca or something like that. The reports are out there. So some of these Bigfoots, there may be different things that look like Bigfoot, but one population I think is a wild animal. And, the reason why is because there's a lot of evidence, there's a lot of stories that are very believable and consistent. And I'm able to piece together a story. And the amount of data basically is why I think this is true. I think there is a Bigfoot species all over the world in forest.
Yeah. Andy Gambino, hi. Nice to see you here. He asks, hi guys, do you have any thoughts on the Alaskan Triangle? And I'm assuming what he means is, the Alaskan Triangle is noted for disappearances and that kind of thing. We have it here in Nevada. We have a Nevada Triangle. And actually, these triangles exist all over the place where...
Isn't there like 15 of them?
Something like that. And, mysterious things happen there. People end up missing there. Now, as far as like the Northwest sightings of Bigfoot and possibly why people go missing in that area, I don't know if we can attribute it all to Bigfoot, but I certainly think that in some instances, that's what has happened, I think that the Alaskan Triangle has a heavy UFO activity. But whether or not it's specifically Bigfoot, I tend to doubt it. But I hope that answers your question, Andy. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I haven't heard of the term Alaskan Triangle before, but that just sounds curious. But that just sounds like Missing 411. And there is some people want to make a Bigfoot connection with Missing 411, which is people missing in wilderness areas all over the world or state parks. I do think that Bigfoot are real. There are physical animals, some of them. And I think if we compare them to other groups of wild animals that we know are real, like elephants or hyenas or wolves, or other primates like chimpanzees, we know that for the most part, they do have a culture. They all act the same way, but there are outcasts. It is possible for a young elephant to go rogue if it's not loved enough or something socially happens. It's been recorded. He'll be a crazy elephant who will maybe be bloodthirsty. So they're a lot like humans in that way. So that is to say, it makes sense that some Bigfoot would be rogue as well, and they would not have the best intentions toward us. They would want to hurt us. But I think most of them are probably, we have to worry about them as much as we worry about maybe like a moose. Like a moose is dangerous. It can kill us. But for the most part, nobody's, pissing their bed thinking about moose. This is not necessarily an animal. Yeah.
Well, and you were talking about the ones that go rogue. I think that there are different types as well. I mean, for instance, up in the Northwest, the most common sighting of Bigfoot is a large, dark brown creature with thick fur. But then you get over into the South, and you've got these other type of Sasquatch that are almost orange in color. And then the ones up in up around like in Maine and Michigan and that sort of place. I mean, they end up they're tan colored.
Yeah,
so and they're not all the same size. The largest ones are in the Northwest, but I mean there's one in the South. I can't remember what they call it, the Bogman or something like that. But I mean, it's actually quite short in comparison. While the other ones tend to be 7-8 feet tall, these are like 6 feet tall. So, but they're covered in kind of an orangish hair.
Well, it would make sense that there's different species of the same thing, just like there's different species of birds and different species of cats. There would be different species of Bigfoot.
Yeah,
that's exactly what I was going to say. Actually, Ralph, you're like a citizen scientist over here. I'm very impressed. Very impressed. Very good. So these differences in accounts, also you see them with a lot of cryptids, like Chupacabra may look different, or Bigfoot do look different, but they're generally the same. That to me is more, those details is more evidence that it's a real animal. So we could take a real world example of squirrels. I mean, squirrels, they live all over the world. Squirrels are a thing. And even within state to state, from Texas to Maryland, the squirrels look different. They look bigger. So that is a true characteristic of life. So Bigfoot is being reported to have these true characteristics that we know happen in life. And the other thing that's really interesting is that, look, we know for a fact, we have fossil evidence that humans used to hang out with other types of intelligent hominids, the Neanderthals. Like we used to have babies with them. We used to have wars with them. We used to just, there used to be different types of humans, like humanoids. We know it. And it sounds like Bigfoot, it matches these accounts. So it's like we have fossil data also backing up the accounts that we have in modern times.
But we don't have anything about Sasquatch as far as fossils or whatever.
Well, I guess it depends. Okay, so we don't have any, I don't know if we have any fossils. We might have fossils. The reason I don't know if we have fossils is because we don't have any current fresh skeletons. If we had a fresh skeleton, we could compare it to others, and maybe we have collected it before. But if we don't have a skeleton to begin with, I can't tell you anything about it. That is a big problem with Bigfoot, is that we don't have a skeleton, we don't have skin, and we don't have, ideally what I would like to have is because this is what we do with rats. This is what we do with pigs. As a scientist, if we're going to categorize it, I would want a corpse that was killed ethically. Then I would basically do an embalming on it. And then I would preserve its fur separately, its bones separately, and I would put it in a museum, like a university museum, in little drawers under lock and key. We would check for pests, and it would stay there for hundreds of years. So we need to do that with Bigfoot. So I would love to have a Bigfoot corpse. That is all we need. If we have the corpse, I would take care of the body and respectfully catalog it, and then we know we have one. But nobody has presented that information.
And why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think it's because it's hard to get skeletons of wild animals in general. Like if I wanted to, like let's say today, I was like, I want to get a grizzly bear skeleton. I don't want to buy it. I want to go get one. It is possible. It's possible, but it's going to take me a long time. It's going to take me a lot of money. It's not that easy just to find one. The reason is because if an animal dies in the woods, it literally gets torn into hundreds of thousands of little pieces, and it goes into hundreds of thousands of different little stomachs. It gets chewed by little different mouths, and in about a week, it could be all gone. There's no trace of it anymore. The bone is gone, the skin is gone, it's all gone. Sometimes big animals take chunks, like vultures. Vultures are the first ones to go there, and then my bacteria also break it down. So we have this thing where it's really hard for me to get a bear skeleton. I just explained to you why. It's possible. But Bigfoot is even harder than a bear skeleton, because I believe Bigfoot is very intelligent and they're purposely trying to hide from us. So perhaps they hide their bodies. They know we want a body and they put it in a cave. I saw a really interesting presentation, and a researcher had found this cave, and it had early hominids. I don't remember the species, but in the cave, it was like a burial pit. So it looked like, he drew a diagram. It looks like what would happen for many years, if they would get a corpse and they would shove it down this little hole in a cave, and then it would just drop into a big open cavern, and this thing just filled up with dead bodies. So Bigfoot could be doing something similar. They're hiding their bodies from us. So for those two reasons, I think is why it's hard to get a body of a Bigfoot.
I saw something a while back. It was at least a couple of years ago, and these two hunters were out, and they came across a family of Bigfoot, and they were burying one of their dead. And so they decided they were going to go back and get a video camera.
Okay.
And, because that's not something that a hunter would necessarily carry around with them. So they went back home, got the video camera, went back out to the side, and no Bigfoot, but there was still the grave there.
Okay.
And so whether or not they're legit or not, I don't know. But
I'm sorry. I think if I came across a grave of a Bigfoot, I'd be digging it up.
Well, that's right. But there was no body there when they got back,
Oh.
So it moved it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So obviously they saw them. The Bigfoot saw the hunters.
The other thing,
decided to, I think that adds to what you were saying about how they're hiding the bodies.
right. So that account is out there. So I think it's true. Look, we can learn a lot about Sasquatch by studying ourselves, because I think we're related to. Well, we definitely are related to them. I think if their origin is from Earth, then we share similar DNA. Every this is what the current thinking is in biology, but it sounds valid to me. Every animal alive shares a common ancestor. That means I share an ancestor with a crawfish. I'm looking at this crawfish. I'm about to eat him, but we actually are related. We are blood related. It's not hard to see why. If you look at a crawfish, I do have things in common. We have what's called bilateral symmetry. That means you could put a line in the middle of somebody, and the left side looks like the right side. Have you ever noticed that animals have this quality? All animals have it. It's because we're related. We have a common ancestor. So life is very related. So what I'm trying to say is we can learn a lot about Bigfoot by studying ourselves, because we are very closely related to them, and by studying all the chimpanzees and all the bonobos and all the silverback gorillas we have. I think they're incredibly similar, and people have been saying that what's reported is similar to what we already know about primates.
I want to jump in here real quick. We've been going for about 25 minutes now. And for those of you who are just joining us, I made an announcement at the top of the show that we are now going to be doing Black Lotus Live on Sundays and Thursdays every week. So our Sunday shows will be reserved for guests. We won't necessarily have guests on our Thursday show. But we will be talking about everything under the paranormal umbrella, including UFOs, including aliens and cryptids and ghosts.
Conspiracy theories.
I don't know if I want to get away from the conspiracy theories, I think, because it's getting kind of dangerous to do that on YouTube, anymore. So I'd rather, we already got dinged once, with. Yeah. So anyway, so we're going to be doing this every Sunday and Thursday. So, and Thursdays will be at the same time, 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. But anyway, let's get away from Sasquatch. Let's talk about Chupacabra. Right. And the reason I want to talk about this is because the original reports came out of South America, and they looked very different from the ones we have in the Southeast,
right?
And in Texas and that sort of thing.
Right.
They looked like gremlins almost, and with these big spines on the back and all that, and wicked looking things. But then in the American Southeast, we're getting reports of dog-like creatures, and from the reports that I've seen and the depictions, it looks just like a coyote with mange to me.
Right. I agree.
I think that's very common recently. You'll see a news article on TV or on a website or a newspaper, and they'll say chupacabra caught. And then when you look at the photo, it's either just a stray dog or a fox or a coyote, one of these wild canines with mange. Mange is basically, I believe it's a mite. It's an infection of the skin. It's very painful and itchy. It causes all the hair to fall out. And then the animals could scratch themselves raw. So imagine like a bald, raw-looking, open sore coyote, or even like even bears can get it. So yeah, I think a lot of those are unfortunately just mangy, just dogs that are suffering with the skin disease.
I've seen a bear with mange, and it's horrible to look at, because it looks nothing like a bear. It looks just gross.
Kimberly, you look like you were trying to say something, but you're on mute. So I don't know if you were talking to us or not.
Kimberly, you're on mute.
Hear me now?
There you go.
Now I can hear you.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened, but yeah. What a day. Anyway, Linda Moulton Howe caught or found something that was supposedly a chupacabra, and I believe she had analyzed as well. She had put that in her freezer. But getting back to the chupacabra again, to me it looks like one of the black hairless dogs in from Egypt that they had.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, that is interesting.
The kind that almost looks like a Doberman Pinscher?
Right.
Right. They're hairless, and they look very similar to ones that pictures that I've seen that they've shown of chupacabra in like the Texas area and down south like that.
Aren't those jackals though?
No, it begins with a X. The name of the dog begins with an X, and I don't have it on me right now. But they do look very similar. They're hairless completely, just like the hair. They're black.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't think that.
Okay, my mic being off.
I don't think that the chupacabra of North America is anything like the one in South America that's been reported.
Right. And here's a question. Look, to me, it seems like this original badass chupacabra. It seems like it was only like it was only a flash in the pan. Like there was a short period in the 90s, and then it just went away. Are there any more reports? I haven't heard of any.
I don't know. I do know that these reports came out of Peru, I believe it was, and the U.S. government had a base there where they were doing scientific experiments, and so the Peruvians kind of blame the Americans because they think that they were doing animal testing there, and that was what was produced, and it got out and suddenly started attacking their chickens in their farms, and so
logical answer.
I recently heard that explanation for the first time. There's this channel called on YouTube. It's called Bob Gimlin. It's about cryptids. Bob Gimlin is the name, I think, of one of the people that filmed Bigfoot. Right. That's not the YouTuber's name. He's just using that as a name for this channel. But he talks about a chupacabra incident in Puerto Rico, and his whole video is very well done. But he says that there is a laboratory, a United States laboratory in that small island of Puerto Rico. And he basically thinks that it was an escaped experiment or creature that was, conjured up by the science lab on the island. And I'd never heard of that. You're the second time I've heard of that. And it made me think that I don't think about this very often, but I guess if I do think about it, I'm sure the scientists are doing radical genetic engineering with animals behind our backs. Just for the record, I think it's mostly it is completely thought of to be unethical right now by any branch of the science, any formal branch of science, anywhere in the world. Any government formally thinks that, on paper, they think that it is unethical to do radical genetic engineering, which is a shame because we could get some awesome things out of it, but we could also get some not awesome things.
Yeah,
but now,
right.
But now that I think about it, yeah, of course it's happening illegally. So you have to consider that option as well.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me a bit if that's going on, kind of like an island of Dr. Moreau, kind of thing.
Mhm.
I mean, New York, the shores of New York, things are always washing up that we just can't really explain, and they're whisked away by
Plum
the government,
Island.
never to be seen again.
Plum
Yeah.
Island?
Plum Island,
Plum
too.
Island, right. Yeah. So, yeah,
Mexico
I think
also, they had. Mexico also had chupacabra, and I had a couple friends of mine actually say that they were in like they would climb up the mountains, and at night their eyes would glow red.
Right.
Now, whether or not that's
no,
that's
it's funny
the actual chupacabra or something.
Well, red glowing eyes are. I'm surprised by how consistent they are in different types of cryptids, even aliens.
Eye shine.
But
That's
the
what I was
red,
thinking.
The eye shine.
But I think they mentioned like red glowing eyes. They don't really mention it because the people that have blue eyes, or my little kitty cat's got blue eyes. She gets that red thing. But I'm talking about glowing eyes, like light is emanating from them from red. But it could be.
Yeah, they could hear the growling and everything as well. So that was like a place that they were like forbidden to go.
Interesting.
so. No, go on.
I was going to say that something that reminded me of is that in humanoid cases, humanoids are often associated with just a high strangeness or UFOs, but humanoids are basically an upright, living animal, and it's got two arms, one head. It's a human basically. But when people try to categorize these encounters, it's very interesting. They have insectoids, praying mantises. They have greys. Of course, we all know greys are by far the most abundant, reportedly one. And then they have reptilians, and then they have people that look very human, almost they could almost pass for human. But then they always have this category of just crazy random humanoids. There's no pattern and there's no end to them. They're just each one is crazier than the last. So that makes me think that perhaps some of these cryptids, there's a subcategory of cryptids where we just get random one-off things, random things. The chupacabra could have just been one random thing. So in my brain, I want to think about this thought further. So I'm like, okay, if it is true, let's just assume that Earth is getting random cryptids without any pattern, and they're also wildly different. Why could that be? Well, I think one explanation could be that we have a lot of portals on our planet. So a portal is like a hole that opens up in space and time, and it's like a door. You walk through it, and you could go to another place, another time, another dimension, another planet, another reality. Who knows where you could go? But right. I think what's happening is there's a lot of portals on Earth all over the planet, and sometimes I think they're just open, and things from somewhere else just plop into them. And with that, they're just random because that's the way the portal works. And I think sometimes people also get stuck in portals, and we may end up somewhere random because the portals are kind of like it's like a wet floor. Basically, we should put a sign there, like portal, do not don't trip on the portal. You might end up in Uranus or something.
That's a hell of a gateway.
Yeah, right.
So, Wild, I asked you earlier as a biologist why you believe that Sasquatch exists. What do you think about lake monsters, like the Loch Ness Monster? And they're all over the place. And, we've got several here in America.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, lake monsters are very interesting. I mean, in a way, I think everybody's like, you tell somebody sea monsters, and they're like, obviously, sea monsters are real. The sea is very big, and there's monsters in there. I mean, it's so big and unexplored. But lake monsters are a little different, or so we think. But I actually don't think lake monsters are much different than sea monsters. because some lakes are very big. I mean, some lakes are like mini oceans.
Right.
So everything applies. There's ecosystems. There's this lake in, I believe it's in Africa for sure, and I think it's in the Congo. But the lake is called Lake Victoria. Okay, so Lake Victoria is one of the most amazing lakes in the world. I know about it through the aquarium hobby or fish keeping hobby. So there's this type of fish that comes only from this lake, and it's called a cichlid. Cichlids are very aggressive, territorial, beautiful, behaviorally interesting fish. A lot of people have them and breed them in aquariums. But what scientists noticed about the cichlids is that Lake Victoria is so big and so diverse that these cichlids, they had an explosion of evolution. So there's so many different varieties. They all eat different things. Some of them live on the ground. It's like a little rainforest of this one type of fish. So that happens in lakes. There's lakes in Russia that are very big. I'm starting to learn about a Lake Baikal, I think. It starts with a B, Baikal.
Yep.
There's a lot of weird lake monsters in there. And the thing about lakes that's also similar to oceans is that we humans don't live inside of the ocean. That means there's no eyes there. Nobody's looking. I know that some people are on boats and some people are scuba diving, but I mean, we don't live permanently in the ocean. We don't live permanently in a lake. So yeah, I think there are lake monsters. Basically, another way of thinking about cryptids to me is undiscovered species. Because I know for a fact there are hundreds of thousands of undiscovered species. Cryptids to me just seem like the most strangest ones. That's why they get so much attention. But there's probably a lot more boring cryptids out there, which are basically just undescribed species. And like I said, I think there's hundreds of thousands of them out there.
I'm trying to get Katie Elizabeth on the show, but she's known as the Lady of the Lake, and she chases after Champ in Lake Champlain.
Oh, that would be awesome. I love Champ.
But lately, I mean, she's had a TV series option to her and all kinds of stuff. So she's really busy. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get her on the show or not, but I'd love to have her on.
Be interesting.
Yeah. Speaking of sea monsters, what are your thoughts on the possibility? I think it's very slim personally, but what do you think about the possibility of a megalodon still existing, or many of them?
Okay, this is great question. It's kind of a minefield first. Let me get this out of the way first, okay? I've seen a lot of shark scientists on social media, and they hate anybody who thinks megalodon might exist. They roast them. I don't know. It's a weird culture thing. They're like, they think maybe they think it diminishes the science. They're like, that makes us look bad. But you know what? Fuck them. I don't care about them. Because I think they're wrong. I mean, sharks are cool, but I think if you open your mind, and you think about ecology on a large scale, ecology is a term that means it's the combination of everything living and not living in a place. So you're thinking about ecology, you're thinking about wind, you're thinking about that animal, you're thinking about water, you're thinking about soil, you're thinking about temperature. It's one of my favorite areas of study, ecology. But when you think about ecology, you think about all these different jobs that exist. Like being a plant is a job. Okay, what you're doing is you're collecting sunlight and you're producing fruits and you're producing matter that other animals can eat. If you're a squirrel, that's a job. Your job as a squirrel is to get nuts and hide them, and you provide protein to wolves. So ecosystems have all these different animals, and they all fit in these different slots. So when I look at the ocean and I look at the deep, deep ocean, there is room for incredibly large predators to live down there. Like, well, we have whales. This always blows my mind. Do you know what the biggest animal is that has ever been recorded in all of known time? What do you guys think it is?
A blue whale?
A blue whale, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a blue whale. To me, that's so fascinating. It's so fascinating to live in the time with the largest animal to have ever lived. We didn't miss it. It wasn't during the dinosaur time. We actually get to live during that time. That's really cool. But that is to say that we know the ocean can support animals like a blue whale, which is the largest animal to ever live. So when you start thinking about the deep ocean, where we don't have a lot of data, we honestly don't have a lot of data. It is expensive to go down there, and it is incredibly dangerous to send anybody down there. I talk about robotics a lot. I'm scared of going into caves. I don't want to go into caves because I think I'll die horribly, alone, naked, in the dark. And so, but I do love all the animals down there. And I don't want to go to the bottom of the ocean because I'm not scared of it, but I think it's dangerous. I don't want to take the risk, but I do want to study it. So I think I'm going to have to get together with an engineer. I know a few engineers, and probably develop some robotics, some drones, my own very own drones, to study the bottom of the ocean and to study caves. That's really cool because we might find a megalodon if we get a whole like army of them. I'm thinking about several small drones, maybe the size of like a cat, but a lot of them. And then you program them to, you know, kind of like grid line search the ocean. And we could probably find some interesting large animals.
Well,
So,
you were talking about the ecology and how it may be able to sustain a megalodon. You know, you mentioned the blue whale, but doesn't the blue whale survive on like plankton and that kind of stuff? So it has a filter, so it can sustain itself off that. But now a shark the size of a megalodon, I don't know that we have enough fish in the sea to support something like that.
well, I will say you may
Not the
be
way
very-
the fisheries are going.
Yeah.
Right.
I will say that you are very right, because I don't think there's enough fish to support a megalodon, but I do think there's enough squid.
They've
to
been taken
support
out
a
of bites
megalodon.
out of
Yeah, so I think what they're
other
eating
sharks
is
as well.
other sharks. So I think they're probably they're cannibalizing each other. They could be cannibalistic, or I think their main food is
Yeah,
squid.
they found them like that.
We know that squid are very big. That's a lot of protein. And we know they live in the deep water. We know they have they have marks on them. So from sperm whales. So we know that large monsters are fighting other large monsters. We know sperm whales are eating these squid. So I think the squid is probably the protein source of the megalodon. And maybe there's undiscovered squid, but you're right. You know, you actually are right, because I don't think it's a fish. I don't think a fish can I don't think large fish can survive that deep in the water, you know. But I do think that a large squid obviously can, because we've recorded it. So I think they're eating squid, basically. Yeah.
I recently saw a photo that has been like going around the internet lately of a large great white, and it was covered with scars. And people are like, what did this? And I thought, well, I mean, only up until recently, the giant squid was considered a cryptid.
Right.
And it's only been discovered by science, in the past maybe 10 years or so. And so, I mean, I think what happened with the shark was that it was probably got into a tangle with a giant squid. I mean, it's entirely possible.
Yeah. That's
Kraken.
interesting.
Yeah. Cthulhu.
We've actually
Yeah.
found larger squid, and I mean the giant squid is big, but then we found another one called the colossal squid, which is much bigger than the giant squid. Yeah, that's really cool to me. The other thing I was going to say is squid, kraken. Man, I can't believe I lost the train of thought. It's gone.
Sorry, dude.
Sorry.
Sorry.
It'll come back to me. Let's just
The Kraken gotcha.
Kraken. The kraken.
But I think you're right. There are no cryptids. There are just undiscovered species.
Right.
You know, the only one that I can stand against on that is the North American chupacabra.
Right.
Because honestly, I think that's just a dog with an age.
That's a misidentification. That's all it is. Misidentification.
Yeah.
I remember what I was going to say. This is a really cool fact about the ocean. Now, you guys tell me if this is new information to you, because when I found out about it, I was like mind blown. So it turns out that in the ocean, you know, the ocean is very big, but actually the majority of life is not, you know, the life that we think of, like coral reefs and seals and sharks. You know, it's very strange, but the majority of life is only on the edges of land. So when you see an island or you see the edge of a country, life really only exists a few, you know, just very close to the shore. When you get out into the deep ocean, really deep ocean, a lot of times there's like nothing there. It's like wide open space. I mean, I'm not talking about the bottom of the ocean. I'm talking about, there's a lot of space above.
The center.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the other thing I heard to describe how empty it is, it's like a void. The majority of the ocean is just a huge empty void. Another way I heard about it described how much like a void it is that somebody had a flashlight and, they were out there and the water was so like clear, there was nothing in it, but they tried to shine this powerful flashlight through the water, but it wouldn't go through the water because there was nothing in the water. There was no particles or anything in it. It was so just clear that the light couldn't shine. So
Really?
did you guys know that the majority of the ocean is barren, and it's just on the edges of countries and islands?
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't know, and a lot of it though is because I didn't think that we had been able to travel too far anyway. We can only go so deep.
Right.
Well, wouldn't it be that the fact that that a lot of the fish eat like plants and things like that?
Right.
So they would need to have some kind of foliage.
Citizen
And
scientist
I think
award
that's
number
why
2 goes to Kimberly. Good observation, Kim. But that is absolutely correct. So I was talking about jobs in the system. The fish and the animals, they need someone to do the job of being a plant so they could eat them. And these plants are thriving on the shores. And then that's why everything's there. It's a good economy, Business is good. A lot of jobs are opening. That's why there's a lot of life around these places.
Yeah, but also look at the pollution as well.
Pollution is a problem.
The pollution that's out in there, yes, that's a big problem.
Mexico Unexplained said, start with the Sea of Cortez. You might find I'm going to mess this up. Demonia Negro, the gigantic shark that may be a megalodon. Have you guys ever heard of this?
No, I haven't heard of that.
That's fascinating. No. That's really cool because this is why this is helpful, because as a biologist, I hear the accounts and I want to start investigating it, but I always need a location. I'm like a detective. I got to get that hot tip. And so the hot tip of looking in the Sea of Cortez, that does narrow it down quite a lot, actually. So it'd be interesting to look there.
So we got Ace Ventura up here.
Yeah, pet detective, cryptid detective.
Right.
So, Wild, I got to ask you, how many people in biology are like you? Do a lot of them believe in cryptids or the possibilities?
I've never met another person like me in formal academia in all my days. So I think we're rare. I don't know. I've never met anybody. As soon as I mention it, like one time I mentioned it to my advisor. He was my boss. I was teaching, and he was my teaching boss, and we were the best of friends. I started talking to him about UFOs. He freaked out in his office. We were at the university. He locked the door. He checked on the hallways. He got so paranoid. Yeah. And he didn't want to entertain the thought. So this is sad but true. In my
wow.
Nobody thinks.
Well, and I wonder if there's a lot of them out there that do believe in this kind of stuff, and you just don't know about it. Because like you,
either they don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
The other thing, look, here's the thing. If you're going to be a scientist, let's just say biology, because that's really what I know about, but it applies to other scientists. There is a lot of not weird stuff that we don't know already, a lot. So if you're a biologist, there's a lot of research you could do that doesn't involve the paranormal. It's a lot safer to do. It's a lot, it's a better investment of your time, because we understand very little of the world of the non-paranormal. So they're not interested in paranormal because they're like, look, let me just study something else because I don't want to deal with the drama. I don't want to deal with the risk. And that's sad, but that's the way it is.
Well, it is. It is sad. And as I've said before, I think it's really kind of screwed up for science to remain in the dark ages on purpose. Because the very job of a scientist is to question everything, and if you're being stifled by your own community, that's really screwed up.
Well, I think I recently started thinking about this. This is true. So I think I'm being a little brazen by saying this, but I think modern science is backwards, And I think we're due for a scientific revolution, a worldwide scientific revolution. We've had it before.
Totally.
They have a reason why they exist, and we're past due for one. And we're going to make great progress once it comes about,
Yeah.
whenever that may be.
But I think it's due to fear.
Fear is.
It's always been due to fear. I mean, look at back in the day when everybody
You couldn't even talk about
it was
UFOs and stuff like that.
well, it was common thought that the Earth didn't revolve around the sun, but the entire universe revolved around the Earth. And to mention anything other than that was complete heresy, and people were burned for it. You know, I mean, so yeah, I mean, we do need to turn the science community on its ear.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and here's the thing: I don't know much about revolutions and how they start and how they play out. That's almost a whole other aspect of knowledge. So maybe, I mean, I think sometimes revolutions happen naturally. You know, just the right ingredients happen in the world, and bam, you got a revolution. But I'm saying this because I don't know if it started already. I don't think it has. Nobody's told me about the revolution, and so that may be a sad. You know, look, what I'm trying to say is I'm not going to start this revolution. Okay, I'm happy with my life. I'm not a revolutionary, but somebody else should do it. Basically,
I think it takes somebody who's well organized and can rally people together.
Yeah, it's going to be a great person that does it. Yeah.
Yeah, but how much
Ralph,
is
what are
the
your thoughts
government
on all
actually
this?
going to allow to be said with that?
Well, and that's just it. I mean, and that's why they say, you know, that we don't have bones from Sasquatch because they're whisked away. Same thing with the weird creatures that are washing up on the shores of New York. You know, they're just taken away, never to be seen again. So they, I mean, like for instance, we spoke to somebody regarding the Nephilim that possibly exist, these giants.
I was just going to bring that up.
It's yeah, and it said that the Smithsonian have bones,
Yep.
but they were probably ground up or something. They don't want the information to get out because it would totally exploit the evolutionary people.
Yeah, you know.
Well, the thing about it is they had destroyed them. They had gotten rid of them a long time ago. Whether they still have some or not, because they couldn't. It didn't fit into the agenda of where they fit into man's what do you call it? Evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I you know what I was going to say that you know kind of goes with what you're saying, Kimberly, is that I know by firsthand experience that organizations in power that control some aspects of science, they will hide big, inconvenient things. That's all I'll say, but I've seen it myself. So if there are bones or samples, to me, it's totally possible they'll just burn them. They'll just make it go away because that happens. Because they're humans. Because they're humans. I mean, it happens because we're humans and we're not perfect. Biologists are humans, scientists are humans, but it's sad.
Let's put it like this: I have a friend that works very close to the big network, let's say, and has witnessed the destruction of a dozen at least of the Bigfoot that was captured. And they captured them with radar. And that was done in Antarctica.
Right.
Mm.
And the reason being, they seen that what they were able to do,
right,
which is sad.
Right.
So it's not like they don't exist, because they do.
Right. Yeah. There's so this is a good point, because it's not only that you know the thing is that the data, scientific paranormal data, it's not always hard to find. Sometimes we do get it, and it's not hard to find. But sometimes what happens in those cases is that it is deleted or is purposely forgotten, and that's a totally different problem than it being rare. It's not rare. It's just being deleted on purpose. Yeah.
It's being manipulated.
For what reason?
I'll give a specific story. So Dr. Jacques Vallée is a French ufologist. He helped Steven Spielberg when he was making Third Encounters of the Close Kind. He's done a lot for ufology. He started off. He's a computer scientist. He's a PhD. He's a Silicon Valley millionaire. He started off as an astronomer, so he was looking at the stars, and he gave a story when he was very young in one of his first, big telescope observatory places with scientists, and he noticed this UFO data. He was like, "Well, these are UFOs we're catching. Look at this. Isn't this crazy?" And he showed it to somebody above him. The person he shows his results to, and that person shut him down completely and just ignored it, stopped talking about it. So there's an example. Why was he doing that? Why do I think he was doing that? Well, that guy has got a boss, and he's got his own career. The person in charge, not the person who found it. The person who finds it, like Jack Vallée, he was excited. He was bushy-tailed, bright-eyed. He wanted to do something. But his boss, he's like, look, I have a salary right now. I have a wife and kids. I have a boss. I have reports I have to turn in. My boss is very busy right now. If I were to tell him this UFO data, it would mess up his schedule. It's going to be a big block in it. And it's going to hurt my career. I don't want to rock the boat. And the other thing
inconvenience.
Yeah, go ahead.
Inconvenience.
No, not just that. It's again, they don't want to mess up their careers. They don't want the stereotype or the dogma that goes with.
Right. Yeah, he'll be laughed at.
It all goes with the UFO things.
Same thing.
A scientist would be laughed at if he says,
exactly.
"Hey, I have data." If I had to say, "Hey, I have data for some paranormal thing," he would be laughed at. When he goes to a convention, they would point a laugh at him, throw a tomato at him. It's no good.
Like I said, they're controlled.
Ralph, what are your thoughts on all this?
On which part?
All of it. Cryptids in general.
I think there's cryptids out there that we see that we are real. Like we said, there's so many species that they're still discovering in this world that we had no idea existed. So why not some cryptids?
Yeah. Absolutely. But
There's
anyway,
been too
guys,
many reports of different ones.
Right, exactly. And we were talking about Sasquatch earlier and how there's different species of Sasquatch. I mean, hell, you've also got Sasquatch isn't necessarily native to North America.
No, of course not. All
over the world. You've got the Yeti. You've got I can't remember the name of it, but there's one apparently in China. There are several different ones.
Every continent has them.
Yeah.
Every continent has them. And not just one type. There's different species or different types in each continent too.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, and they've been reported on each continent. So if you have them being reported, how are they being dismissed?
Right. Exactly.
Right before we go, I wanted to shout out my friend Robert Bitto, who's in the chat room, and he's the one who has the channel Mexico Unexplained. So
Okay.
Robert Bitto is a fascinating guy. I've been actually meaning to ask him to be on the show. He's a writer. He's written several books on everything strange in Mexico. He visits Mexico. He collects he collects stories from little villages, and he writes them all down. And he's basically, in my eyes, he's a folklorist. He records folklore in Mexico, and he's got the best channels. If you go to Mexico Unexplained, you're going to have a good time, and you can check out his books on Amazon as well.
I will definitely check his channel out. Wild, see if you can get him on.
Okay, I'll ask him today.
And we'll schedule him, most definitely. I think we've got open spots coming up around November, or rather December 4th, I think, something like that.
Thank you for that. I will
but I think we're booked up until then. In fact, we were supposed to have a guest on tonight to talk about Sasquatch, and I don't know what happened to him, but he's not around. So, but anyway, yeah, let's get out of here for the night. Viewers, thanks a lot for watching. Again, we are going to be on Sundays and Thursdays every week now, and the Sunday show will be reserved for guests, and pretty much, and. Let's see, what else would I want to say? Oh, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And when you do subscribe, make sure to hit that bell and then click all. And the reason for that is because YouTube is doing their typical YouTube stuff, and they're shadow banning paranormal channels. And so even though you subscribe, you may not get the notification that we're on. So make sure you do that. If you want to support us, you can do so through Buy Me a Coffee. There's a link in the description for that too, and you can donate anything, whatever you like. So, but anyway, Wild, thank you for doing this tonight. It was very interesting talking with you, especially because you're a biologist, and I mean, I think you're right. You're one of the very few biologists out there that actually believe in these cryptids,
or who admit it,
or will admit it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I will say I have probably hundreds of thousands of hours worth of conversation in me about cryptids and biology. So don't hesitate to ask.
Kimberly, thanks for joining us again. Viewers, thank you for joining us. And as always, keep thinking and question everything.